edition of our forum. I hear lots of discussion, which means we're doing what we're supposed to be doing in a forum, and that is really exciting to me. My name is Susan Fletcher, and I am the Skills Instruction and Coordinator at the Academic Advancement Center at Ohio University. I've been working with Deb Nichols here and also Lena Moore. Lena, wave. Lena, hello, wave, just wave. Okay. Lena from Sheridan High School together through our partnership with the Appalachian Writing Project to kind of coordinate this College Readiness Forum. This is our third forum. Some of you are returning members of the forum. If you were at our forum that we did at Hocking College 2 years ago, raise your hand if you were. Yay, so returnees, yay, alumni, cool. All right, so we're excited to have those of you who are both returning and also those of you who are new to our forum ideas. So a big part of this is an opportunity to have discussion, as we set up so well with Tony, between college and high school administration and faculty, which gets at a lot of different angles. So I'd like to introduce our panel today. We have Dr. John Fisher, who's the Director of Student Services here at OU Chillicothe. We have Jeff Fisher, he's the principal of Chillicothe High School. Rob Callahan, the dual enrollment, I guess it's now College Credit Plus. What's our official? Director of Dual Enrollment from Ohio University. And also Kelly, is it Abel? Abley. She's a guidance counselor from Benton County High School. So we want to represent all these different voices here. And I'm going to give each person a chance to, they have their microphone there in front of them, so you don't have to necessarily get up and stand unless you want to, but to explain a little bit about these questions. So this is what we're going to do. They're going to talk for about 5 to 7 minutes about some things related to our college readiness ideas, and then we'll have an opportunity at the end, after each one has talked a little bit about some of the initiatives and some of the overview of some of the things they're doing and ways they are addressing college readiness in their schools, and then we'll open it up for some questions. And this is a time to really have some open, good discussion about the kinds of things that we're struggling with, the kinds of things that we're doing, how we're being proactive, and how we're working with that. So the questions that we are looking at here have to do with what challenges that we faced with college readiness, and then what we are doing to facilitate college readiness in our particular positions in our particular schools. And then more up to what we're doing here today is how can we have this conversation between faculty and administration, between high school and college collaboration work better? What can we do better to get these discussions going, and from those discussions then maybe changes and keep growing in our ability to provide college readiness for our students? So I will start if we'll just kind of go down the line here. So Jeff Fisher from OU, from Chillicothe City Schools, yes? Yes, I'll let you speak first.
As she said, I'm Jeff Fisher. I'm the Chillicothe High School principal. From a college readiness perspective, obviously we have noted a serious issue and an epidemic that occurs. The whole notion that students are not exactly college ready and are having to take remedial courses, and the notion that a lot of universities are going to do away with remedial courses and require students to go into those regular courses and potentially not be ready and successful. So some things that we have implemented. Obviously, we noted very early that students have to pass an ACT or do well on an ACT for college admissions, and we instituted an ACT College Career Readiness course. It's a course that we have at Chillicothe High School that is an elective course for credit towards graduation, and the focus is preparing students not just for scores that they do well on the ACT, but also for college life. We talk about stuff as remedial and as simple as laundry points. We talk about things as simple and remedial as understanding how to budget your time as well as your money to make it last throughout a month. So things that aren't just as far as college and career readiness from a writing standpoint or a curriculum standpoint or a critical thinking standpoint, but actually walking onto a college campus and understanding the trials and tribulations that can occur just from a functional living standpoint. And I think that's been a highly successful course. We kind of bounce between ACT prep and actually preparing for life in college and being a college student. We have initiated a one-to-one Chromebook initiative at Chillicothe High School. Every single one of our students now has a computer, a laptop device, a Chromebook that they take home with them every single day, and they utilize in the classroom every single day. So we are trying to very much put our students in the position to learn and succeed and assess and be able to display their knowledge and understanding of material in a way that college is going to expect. I know my first 2 years of college, I was very much still writing in the blue book. If most of you guys remember the blue book, right? Your hand cramps midway through the assessment, and you think you're probably going to die, but you still have a half a blue book to fill up. And maybe if you're really ambitious, you fill up 2 blue books. The blue books are kind of becoming a thing of the past, and now Blackboard's a big format, I know, at the collegiate level to submit material. And I know I really struggled my junior year of college with transitioning to this notion of Blackboard and this notion of I had class on Tuesday, and now I'm not going to get to wait until Thursday to submit my assignment. I'm going to submit it by 11:59 on Wednesday. We want to set up as much of a college setting as possible at the high school, at Chillicothe High School. So we are doing all of our assessments, formative and summative, in our core subjects on Blackboard through an online assessment delivery, and we're afforded that opportunity because our students do all have a Chromebook in their hands and can actually be assessed with these technological devices. And I think engaging our students in learning in the way that they learn, which is a lot of times through multimedia, through technology, has been highly beneficial to us. And then I think just from a structural standpoint, one of the complaints that our students had coming back, and I try to survey about 200 graduates every 2 to 3 years on what was maybe negatively impacted by their high school experience as far as preparation for college. And unequivocally, what came back for the most part was the notion that our students were not prepared to sit through lecture-type classes. They were not prepared after sitting through a 38, 40-minute, 45-minute class to sit in a 3-hour lecture class. So we did change the entire format, entire structure of our school at Chillicothe High School. We went away from the full-year commitment to classes, and we went to semesters. And we have tried to mimic the college setting as much as possible at CHS, and that is that courses are done in 18 weeks. We have 70 minutes a day, every single day of opportunities for education for our students. We've reduced the amount of classes they're taking at one time so they can focus more on one class at a time. They take basically 5 classes a semester. And we've also increased the block schedule, the opportunity to experience more in different curriculum. And what I'm very interested in doing is ensuring they can see different types of math classes, different types of English classes to have more creative opportunities. So as much as possible at Chillicothe High School, we're trying to create an environment that is very college-esque so that the college atmosphere that they're going to be walking into 4 years later isn't completely foreign to them.
Thank you. That's all great stuff.
Thank you.
I'm going to be talking about this from a different angle, and I'm sure the other guidance counselors in the audience will kind of concur with me on a lot of the things I'll be talking about. I've been doing high school guidance counseling for 10 years. Prior to that, I worked at Hocking College for 10 years. Prior to that, I was a rehabilitation counselor. So I've been around in different areas of sort of helping people think about what they want to be and how they'll shape their life or reshape their life if you're thinking about people with work injuries and that kind of stuff. So I will say that I was amazed when I was working at Hocking College in my early days and would help in academic advising during the busy times. And people would stop at the door and they'll say, "I'm enrolling today and I need to schedule classes." And I would say, "What major are you choosing?" "I don't know." "So you're going to start college without," and these were adult learners oftentimes. And I would be just kind of taken aback by the whole idea that you start college today, you just walked in the door, you're going to sign up, and you're going to start a major, and you've not even thought about this very much. So, and that's not true of every student that started at Hocking College, obviously, but there were many like that. And sometimes, like one woman came in and she said, "I'm going to be in accounting." And I said, "Why did you choose that?" And she said, "Well, because I'm good with numbers, and everybody in my family said I'd be good at accounting." I said, "Wow." I said, "Okay." I said, "Is there something else you'd like to be?" She said, "I'd really rather be a plumber." And again, I think as people evaluate what to do and what's going to make them happy and successful in life, I don't think they really think through things. Now, bring that to present day, one of the challenges that our teachers face in every subject area is getting students to think about what they're learning and apply the knowledge. And that's one of their major frustrations. And so I can translate that into working with kids in college readiness. From day one, our freshmen come in and we do an orientation, and then I tell them as the freshman counselor, everything that you do matters here in high school, every grade that you get, everything you're involved in, all this stuff kind of paints a picture of who you want to become as a high school student and what you want to do with the rest of your life. Let's make this a great experience. Utilize me, utilize Mrs. Rippett, the other counselor, as much as you can to find out what opportunities are there and how to explore careers and college options and that kind of thing. Don't just go, I'm going to be a veterinarian. That's what I'm going to do. Now, I know I didn't pass my freshman classes, but I'm going to get it together by the time I'm a junior. Just totally unrealistic expectations about sort of how to direct their life. And like many of you, we have students who come from families where there aren't role models, there aren't social supports, there aren't people who are helping them make good choices, or at least evaluate their choices, their options that exist, and plan ahead for those, from day one, beginning to have a good experience in high school, getting good grades, taking as many college prep classes as you can. When you're in a college prep class, remember that the purpose of the college prep class is to prepare you for college. I have done observations and sat in classes that were college prep, and believe it or not, kids were complaining about having homework or having a test on Friday. I'm like, oh my gosh, don't you understand that you're in here for a reason? And the reason is to get you ready for college, because it's going to get a lot harder. It's not going to get easier. No one is going to hold your hand and do this for you. So trying to communicate the importance of what they're doing now in high school and how that translates to the work ethic, structure, and things that they'll need to do for the future is something that I work very hard to communicate to kids. I know Mrs. Ripa does as well. But I just don't know how much really sinks below the surface. I don't know how, for the vast majority. Now, we are always going to have those kids who are driven, focused. They play every sport. They're straight-A students. They're just bionic. And then we've got a bunch of kids in the middle who are certainly capable of college-level work, but just sort of lack the sometimes ambition or sometimes the support, sometimes the direction or whatever, to kind of formulate a real plan that works for them. And I think those are the kids, for the most part, that are going to be most likely to have problems once they get into college, because they're still a little bit directionless. And unless you can sink your claws into them and make them feel affiliated with your campus, feel like they're an important part, especially for commuter campuses, they don't get that sense of really involvement a lot of times. The more you can do that, the more likely you are to hold on to them. And I apologize, my brain's gone in a bunch of different directions as I've thought about this whole presentation, what I'll say and how it'll matter or whatever. But anyway, those are the big things that are on my mind. And I guess I'll quit here and let Rob talk, and then if anybody has any questions, I'll talk some more. So, thanks. Rob's giving me it's time to quit, Kelly.
No,
He's been through the post-secondary and CCP blahs that I do with parents all the time. I talk and talk and talk. So anyway, thank you.
Thanks, Kelly. Is this on? Can you guys hear me? Good. My name is Rob Callahan. I'm Director of Dual Enrollment Programs at Ohio University. A little bit about my background. For the previous 10 years, I worked in undergraduate admissions at two other institutions. I started off at Gannon University, small Catholic selective private school in Erie, Pennsylvania. Moved from there to Ohio University, worked in undergraduate admissions there for several years. Left OU as the Senior Associate Director for Transfer Initiatives. So I was working a lot with relationships and coordinating articulation agreement and transfer credit with community colleges, between community colleges and the university. I left for a short time to go to Miami. Don't throw anything at me. And then I came back when this role was created. The impetus for my role here at the university was the College Credit Plus legislation that was signed during the summer of 2014. In my former role, PSEO was a bullet point on my job description, and because of how the law changed and the dynamics that changed, it became a full-time position. It was created, and I jumped right on it because I thought it was a great opportunity to be at the very beginning of a new movement in Ohio, which is dual enrollment. I want to start off by giving you an overview of our program, but I want to do it within the context of a national conversation. So if you look at the handout that was distributed by Deborah before we started, at the top there's the Ohio University logo. In the right-hand corner there's the National Center for Education Statistics. There are really two data sets, major data sets on a national perspective that researchers look to when they start to talk about dual enrollment. One is from 2002-03 academic year, and the other, most recent, is from 2010-11 academic year. Both were national surveys conducted by NCES. So what I want to do is talk about dual enrollment at Ohio University, what it looks like this fall, in the context of, from a national perspective, what does this look like? And so currently Ohio University's program allows 7th through 12th graders who are eligible to participate to enroll. However, 90% of our students this fall are either in the 11th or 12th grade. As a comparison, Most institutions nationally report that 11th and 12th graders were eligible to take courses. 40% reported eligibility for grades 10, and 20% reported eligibility for high school students in grades 9. You'll see that there's not a statistic for 7th and 8th graders, and that's the junior high conversation is an interesting one. On a national level, NACEP is an organization we belong to, and there's a lot of debate within that organization about what is the appropriate age and grade level to start a student out in college instruction. There are states that have policies that only allow juniors and seniors. There are others that are debating whether or not we should allow 9th and 10th graders. We may be the only state, and I'll have to fact check this, that has legislated permitting 7th and 8th graders to participate. I could be wrong. I want to fact check that. I don't know of any other states that have legislated that. Of course, there are some other institutions that permit it. On the next bullet point, the admission standards for College Credit Plus on our campus, as any of our campuses, are the same as those in place for regular degree-seeking applicants. 46% of institutions nationwide reported that the academic eligibility to participate were the same as the admission standards for regular college students. We currently have this fall 896 students across southeastern Ohio enrolled on all 6 of our campuses. 53% of institutions nationwide enroll high school students, and the total number during the 2010-11 academic year was 1,413,000 students. That represents a 75% increase over the previous data set, which was in 2002-03. So we've seen a significant increase in dual enrollment participation during that time frame. The average Ohio University College Credit Plus student is enrolled in 2.5 courses or 8.6 credit hours right now. You'll see that is much higher than the national average. Only 3% of institutions reported 3 or more courses, and 18% were 2 or more. Ohio University does track students who are at risk for academic performance. We provide some additional academic coaching and advising. One thing we are doing, though, right now is working with our institutional research office to collect data and to better evaluate what contributes to a high school student's academic success so we can better monitor and provide services to those students. We have students enrolled right now in 760 unique courses. I think that's an interesting statistic, around 900 students in 760 unique courses. 90% of those courses are on-campus, traditional college courses, while 5.5% are online and 4.5% are in the high school. Among our peers, nationwide, 83% reported programs were taught on the college campus, and 64% of the courses were at the high school campus, while 48% were through distance education. So that's a substantial difference between our program currently and a national average, which reports 64% of their courses being in the high school. I think that's the direction that the state will go, and part of the framework that we're building for teacher evaluation at Ohio University. And then Ohio University requires high school teachers to meet the same criteria and minimum qualifications as faculty that are hired to instruct an on-campus course. So 100% of our approved high school teachers right now would meet the same criteria to be a faculty member on our campus. And HLC is paying a lot of attention to faculty credentialing right now, and actually just yesterday released documentation that specifically talks about dual enrollment teachers in the high school setting. So on page 2, why are we here and what does all this mean, and why are we talking about dual enrollment? Why are we doing this? It's because it does make a difference. We had a great conversation in the last session about the difference between opportunity and readiness, and there is a distinction. But for those that are truly ready, we do see that they are successful and that their participation in dual enrollment programs does play in to greater likelihoods of matriculation in college programs and persistence to graduation, even in academic performance. Some of the statistics you'll see are that 17% more students are likely to enroll after high school and college programs versus those that don't participate. Higher percentages pursue bachelor's degrees, persist to second terms, and persist to their second year. They have higher GPAs and they go to college with more credit, all which lends into college degree attainment. And that's really why I'm involved in this and why I'm doing what I'm doing and enjoy working with you all on the secondary side to make sure that we're creating a program that meets the needs and serves your students. So ultimately they realize the benefits that we see here in the data. So with that, I'll pass it over to John.
Thank you. My name is John Fisher. I'm Director of Student Services here at Ohio University Chillicothe. Excuse me. And this is an open enrollment, open access institution. So anyone that has a high school diploma or a GED will be admitted to go to school here. And what that results in is we have a lot of students that, based on maybe their ACT scores or based on Compass Placement Test scores or SAT scores, are academically unprepared to go to school here. We have a lot of low-income students that are attending here. We have a lot of first-generation students that are attending here. And we, as I think Rob and Carissa mentioned in an earlier meeting that we were in, retention is a focus. We're trying to find different ways to reach out to these students to try to provide them with the support that they need, hopefully, to succeed here. And so we've been trying some things here. One of the things we do is we have a testing center upstairs, and that's where most of our students come to take the Compass Placement Test. And after they take that test, they come out to our check-in desk and they meet with an academic advisor right then. So we sit down with them, we look at their placement test scores, and discuss where they stand academically. You've tested into developmental English, or you tested into college English. This is great. You're here, you're there. This is potentially what the future is going to look like for you in terms of course registration. But we also worked with Deb Nichols and Dennis Ray over in the Tutoring Center to create this refresher mod or intensive review program where if the student is pretty close to testing college ready in English or math or reading, we walk them over to the Tutoring Center, and they have put together a little more in-depth assessments there where they meet with the student, talk to them, and say, okay, this is what you need to do, this is what you need to review in order to retake the placement test and test college ready in English or math or whatever it is. And so, the agreement we hope to conclude with this student is you've got a month now before your orientation or school starts. Go out, review this material, come back, and you can retake either this portion of the test or the entire test free, and we'll see where you stand. We've had a great success with individuals testing college ready in English once they do this review. Math, a little bit different story here. But what we like about this is, we feel like we're fulfilling our mission of getting these students academically prepared and at the same time saving them money because they don't have to pay for the developmental classes now. They come in and go straight into the college level class, and cutting down on their time to degree because, again, they don't have to take the developmental class. They can go right into the college level class. We also do mandatory orientations, but what we also do to supplement the orientations is we have first-generation students. We identify them and pick them out, and we do a special, like, parent significant other session that Brenda Phillips helps us with, where we talk to their parents or their husband or wife or whatever it is about what to expect. This is what's going to be happening here with this individual. Here's what you can expect, and maybe here's ways that you can work to help and support them. We also, you can have a student go to orientation and talk to them the very next day and say, do you remember this? And, they'll look at you and say, huh? So what we're also doing is we take the first-generation students, and once they attend orientation, before they leave orientation, we schedule a follow-up appointment with them in the 2 weeks prior to the start of the term, so we can touch base with them again. You got your books, you've made sure your financial aid is ready, so on and so forth. And then we meet with them again in the first 2 weeks of the term to ask, how are classes going? Are you having any problems? Can you find your class? Do you know who your instructor is? Those kinds of things. We also do that with students that test into 2 or more developmental classes. If a student takes the placement test and they test developmentally in 2 or more classes, we do these pre- and post-term follow-up appointments with them also. Additionally, we have the UC classes on this campus, the college readiness classes, UC 1000, things like that. If our students test developmental in 2 or more classes, we require that they take the UC 1000 class to help them hopefully make a smoother transition into their college life here. In terms of college readiness, we do offer developmental courses. Those are on our course schedule. So if a student, say we have a student that they just are solidly developmental, they're not close enough to do this intensive review probably and get college ready, take the developmental classes. That's what you need to do. We also have a strong relationship with the ABLE program in this and other counties, and we do have students that come in, they want to go to college, and they test very low. And we recommend that you go and do some adult basic education and improve your skills, and then come back and go to school. So we try to do those kinds of things. One of the things that we did that I think is helpful, and I think we started about 5 years ago, is we do guidance counselor meetings every semester. And we invite guidance counselors from all Ross County and all the surrounding counties that border with Ross County. And we meet in the fall and the spring semester. Last year, we expanded this to include a principal and superintendent meeting. And College Credit Plus was such a burning issue at the time that it seemed like we needed to get input from principals and superintendents, and did. And I think, those, in terms of what can we continue to do or how can we collaborate in the future, I think those are the kinds of things that we should continue to do. Jeff Fisher brought up a good idea in our meeting today, the College Credit Plus meeting, about collaborating over the course of the summer probably to have like a camp, a preparedness camp for College Credit Plus students. Those are the kinds of things that we need to do because, as Rob said, and Kelly as well, we're all in this together, I think. Thank you.
Okay, so now I'd like to open it up to some questions. We do have one microphone down over here, and then I'll bring this one over to this side. And we invite you to come and ask questions of our panelists, or if you want to just kind of provide an open question and our panelists can maybe address it, we can talk about it like kind of as a group here. So I invite somebody to start it out maybe to come on down and ask some questions, either of very specific things initiatives that people are doing, or be able to share some of yours kind of bouncing off anybody else. So do we have somebody? Janet. Okay, great. Deb will make it easy so you don't even have to get up.
That's great.
Yeah.
I noticed, and Kelly, you mentioned this, and I'm hoping you can expand on it, having our students think realistically about their future. I have students all the time tell me they're going to be doctors, and I'm thinking you can't write a sentence. How are you going to be a doctor? How can you explain further that process? Because I feel like there's that fine line between, offending a child, making them not supporting what they want. Like, how do you facilitate that conversation to say, how do you realistically get them to think about a future that is more obtainable?
Well, I never do tell a kid that it's not feasible. So Because I don't really know. I have an idea a lot of times, but I don't really know for sure. I don't have that crystal ball. What I usually do is I encourage students to fully investigate the career path that they wish to, they're saying they want to do, whether it be the top ones are pediatrician, veterinarian, doctor, lawyer, and I'm sure there's another I'll think about, probably like a sports athlete or whatever. That's redundant, isn't it? But anyway, I encourage them to fully investigate, okay, how do I do this? Where do I need to go to school, or what kind of training do I need for it? For instance, with the veterinary program, there's one that I know of in the state of Ohio, and that's Ohio State, and only a few people get in every year, and it's pretty tough competition. But you really fully investigate this, and then also think about other careers that are similar or will complement that, like veterinary tech or some other aspect of working with animals or whatever, as other plans if that one doesn't work out for you. And think about how long do you really want to go to school, and how much money is it going to take, and all those things that are part of this picture. And then as you kind of compare that to other paths that are kind of similar, think what might work best for you. And that's kind of the angle I take with kids. Never want to tell them they can't, but I always tell them, keep other things available. And I also tell them that many people who change, as we all know, change their majors while they're in high school, thinking about what they want to be, and then ultimately when they get to college, what they end up being. I was one of those people as well. So, I say keep the options open, get a fishing pole in several ponds, find out who's got what programs, what they can offer you, and what kind of money that you might be able to get if you attend their college. And then once you get there, keep your mind open to the possibility that you might change your mind.
I'd like to just jump in for a second, too. Do we ever ask kids why they choose those degrees or those professions? If you think about what you listed there, it's all about the money, right? Mm-hmm. So I think that another conversation that we could certainly have with our students is, why do you want to do the thing that you want to do? And what other possibilities are out there that you might want to explore. So I think that we need to let our kids explore a little bit more, too. So I just wanted to follow up with what you said. I like having a diversity, and I think that's where you were going.
Yeah. Go ahead. I think the Ohio Means Job website is going to help a lot with helping kids over the span of their junior high and high school years further refine their goals as they think about, what happens after high school and where they want to be.
To piggyback on that a little bit from an admission perspective, we always took the approach that undecided wasn't a bad word. That's fine. There shouldn't be any pressure on you at age 17 to try to figure out what you want to do for the rest of your life. I think I'm still trying to figure that out at 36 and a half. So, to put that on a high school student, secondary student, I think that's a lot. That's a burden. Undecided is not a bad word. And what's popular, if you see the majors that students apply to, what's popular on an application is what's popular in pop culture. I mean, you look at what's on TV. For 10 years, it was, I want to be a doctor because ER was popular. Then it became forensic science because that was the popular TV show. And then, so we see those trends reflected in application statistics as well. But I think we, as a culture, put a lot of pressure on kids to decide early on what they want to do, and I think we need to restrain a little bit in that respect.
The issues that we face as guidance counselors, just to support what the guidance counselor said, it's really tough sometimes. And like you say, it's unethical to tell your student, you cannot do this, you can be this. In response to the question that the English teacher asked, we have a very grateful tool, which is Naviance, and I'm sure some schools use it too. And there's several versions of that tool where students can go to and take surveys, take interest inventory surveys, take career inventory surveys. They start taking it from the 7th grade, and those change every year. So by the time they get to their senior year, they can take those surveys, and then those surveys will tell them what their strengths and weaknesses are. It's hard for you to tell a student who is having problems in math that you cannot be the doctor you want to be. You can tell them that because you truly do not know. So what we do is we tell them, take these surveys, see what your strengths and weaknesses are, and under the career survey, it has so many activities on there which they can Google various careers and really go in depth and see what those careers will need. What do you have to be good in? What does your GPA have to be? What classes, what grades do you have to have in those classes? So when seniors come to you, you see that their grades are really low, their GPAs are low, but this is what they want to do, this is where they want to go. So you really put them in charge, make them to go out and do the research and then come back and meet with you, and then they will come back with different perspectives. Thank you.
One of the questions I have is, I mean, I think one of the beauties of College Credit Plus opportunities is that students maybe can explore some opportunities, maybe try some things out. But, and Rob, maybe you could speak to this, but it seems like what I've noticed even in my own kids, but a lot of other students I've seen, is they tend to go for checking off boxes of requirements. Oh, good, then I don't have to take freshman composition when I go there. I don't have to take my, fine arts course or something in my tiers, or, so I'm wondering how much, we can do to encourage that either in our own ELA classrooms, some of that exploration, but what is in CC Plus, are they allowed to do? I know sometimes students wanted to, and then the classes weren't open, so it's kind of a 22 there. So, yeah.
So, big shift between PSEO and College Credit Plus. PSEO was supplemental. That's how the policy was written. It's meant to be supplemental to the high school curriculum. College Credit Plus, in a lot of respects, can replace the curriculum. And so any student who is in option B of the program, they're essentially limited to courses that are going to satisfy both college and high school requirements. So that does limit kind of the exploratory nature of the program to some respect. I have some statistics here of the most enrolled courses at OU this fall by high school students. Freshman composition is the number one most enrolled in course. That's English 1510. Political science 1010, math 1200, psych 1010, Soc 1000, math 2301, comms 1030, math 1300, and then 2 chem courses. They're all general education requirements. There's not a lot of exploratory stuff going on here, right? Maybe if you get into some of the more lower percentages that aren't reflected in these top 10. But I think that is one of the drawbacks between PSEO and CC Plus, is that we used to talk directly to students about this being an opportunity to explore, take a ceramics course, take an art course or a music course or whatever that might be. We're not having those conversations as much right now as we used to.
Okay, anybody else?
I actually have multiple questions, but I'm only going to stick to just one or two. I'm also starting I just moved to a different high school. I'm the librarian, and they wanted me to start we call it Senior Life, but it's the College and Career Ready, essentially, type class. I had it at a previous school, and we worked a lot on scholarships and just giving time. It was almost as much time for college application and scholarship application as anything. I mean, that was what the students really took the class for, is that time, because a lot of those students who are interested in that are taking the advanced placement classes, the CC Plus. At the time, I think it was post-secondary is what they called it. But, I had one question first for the ACT prep, like how you go about that whenever you have someone like me who was a former English teacher. How do I go about, besides just giving them resources where they can explore the subject on their own? I can do no help with math or science. And secondly, how do you address, one of you talked about the preparation and that disconnect between the curriculum of a high school versus a college, and the intense nature of a college class versus high school, whenever we're basically hand-feeding them because of state mandates. They can't fail, especially IEP students who are now wanting, to transition to that high possible, even an associate's level. How do you suggest we deal with that?
Well, I know from the the college career readiness piece, I think that was the first part of that question. The notion that, how does an English teacher address science and math curriculum? One of the things that we've done at Chillicothe High School to prepare for the ACT as well as college career readiness is we did break the test down. There is an ACT college career readiness teacher in the English department. There's an ACT college career readiness teacher in the math department, and there's an ACT college career readiness teacher in the science department. These are semester courses so that a student can take advantage within one school year the opportunity to attack potentially 2 different disciplines. And if it fits in their schedule for an elective piece to be able to take all 3 or 2 at the same time, they have that opportunity. And we designed our curriculum and the guidance counselor in the back that spoke to Naviance. I will champion that program as well. It's been something that we have utilized at Chillicothe High School, Naviance, as something for the college career readiness piece, just as much as the ACT prep piece, but there is the ACT prep notion in there as well. And we've designed the curriculum around deadlines, very much what you discussed. When the Common App deadline is coming up, we're focused on the Common App. When the early admissions deadline is coming up for universities, we focus on that. When the admissions deadlines are coming up for most major universities around the December 1st deadline, we're focused on getting major college applications in. And then when FAFSA comes up right around January, we're focused on the FAFSA aspect of things. And then in between, we're fitting in those opportunities to bring in a lot of past graduates to discuss the trials and tribulations they had with the transition to college, so that it's very real life for them. And again, they like seeing their friends coming back from Miami University or from Ohio University, from Ohio State University to discuss those things. Because when you talk about college readiness, and I think that's something that when you discuss the college readiness aspect, we focus so much on a student's ability to read, write, and compute. And from my perspective, college readiness first has to start with hope, opportunity, experience, and relationships. And if you can give students the hope that they actually can go to college, you can give them some type of faux experience of a college setting. And that's the second part of the question that you, I think, are addressing, that notion of how do you move from a curriculum of high school setting or middle school setting of spoon-feeding curriculum to a student to ensure they engage in it and they get it, where you go to a college setting where it's maybe more of an abstract thought process. I thought the gentleman who spoke this morning very passionately about the abstract notion of critical thinking was 100% dead on in so many ways. Yet, when you bring that into a functional standpoint of a high school setting, might not be as functional as we want it to be. It might be more of an abstract thought. And I think that's what his challenge is. How do we make it less abstract? How do we make it more functional? From our standpoint, I can only speak from Chillicothe High School, I really challenge our teachers a lot in regards to the creativity in which they utilize their curriculum. And I think that's something even at the collegiate level we have to be challenged with. It's not so much we have to read this story because this story is a classic or because this material is something we've used in the past. We have to begin to consider our students from a 21st century learning opportunity and say multimedia might be the way to go. You want students to learn about foreshadowing, or you want students to learn about the ability to read, write, compute, whatever it may be, put it in a setting that excites them and engages them and makes them passionate about it. If you can invoke emotion from a student, whether it be laugh, cry, anger, whatever it may be, invoke emotion, then the opportunity for learning and long-term memory recall is going to be heightened that much more. So I think we have to step outside of our comfort zone from a curriculum standpoint and learning targets, and I think that's one thing this morning that I wanted to passionately discuss from this panel discussion, is that I do not believe standards are a bad thing. I believe we need standards. We need expectations. Where I would challenge us as educators to start getting more creative in regards to the content we utilize to achieve the content standards that we must ensure our students achieve. Because college readiness from a standpoint of reading, computing, and writing is important. But how we get them to those learning targets, how we get them to those standards, to me, is not. And if you want to bring your students in a movie and discuss foreshadowing from a horror movie perspective, do it. Because that knock on the door, that ominous tone, or whatever it may be, is just as much foreshadowing as what Orwell uses in some of his literature. And I think that's what we have to get challenged about. That's what we have to get passionate about as educators when you talk about curriculum. And that's what even challenges from a college setting to get passionate about. Is not just teach what you love, or not just teach what has been taught in the past, but how does your child in your classroom at 16 years old, who has been physically or sexually abused by the age of 8 and has no parental support at home, who does not trust adults in a way that you or I would have trusted them from a nuclear family standpoint, how can you still engage and react to that student? He loves music. He loves entertainment. He loves the opportunity to be disconnected from real life. So how are you going to do that, utilize that mode and that modality to still achieve a content standard? So when you talk about that notion of high school versus college and the disconnect, it's there. It is there. But I think there's a rational, functional explanation that we can utilize as educators, and that's to start attacking reality rather than abstract thought. And how can we reach these kids and then tie it together? You can tie darn near anything into these content standards to get them to learn it. So you have to start looking at these content standards as a roadmap to success, not as a building block or a blockage to you being creative in the classroom. I think I could point to my teacher right now who's in the room, Dustin Weaver, and I urge you guys to talk to him. He's an amazing educator in regards to I do not care about his content. I just don't. I trust him explicitly. He's amazing. So teach whatever you want in regards to content. But there are essential questions and learning targets you've got to make sure your students achieve. How you do it, I don't care. Engage the kid. Make him passionate. Make him emotional. Make him learn. So that's the challenge. It is a notion that I think you're hitting the nail on the head on a lot. I don't know you personally, but what you're talking about is the principal preparation standpoint, the program standpoint, focuses too much on the achievement in regards to content, and I think we have to get away from that school of thought. So you're resonating loud and clear in regards to that comment.
I'm seeing the look on everyone's face out here, and everyone's going like this. You guys are all, but I'm seeing like all heads nodding here. So I think, Deb, you want to bring, Kathy has something to say, I think.
I could really cheer from what you're saying, and I'm sure a lot of the teachers here could. I've been a high school teacher and a college professor too. And really, if I had to summarize everything we've done today, it's relevance. It's the word relevance. It's what makes the content that we have to teach relevant to us in the classroom and what relevance means to the student in life, because we're all learning about life in the English classroom, whether we acknowledge that first or not. It is what we do is what our students are seeing and learning. So I cheer what you're saying. I think it's contextualizing what we're doing is what it's all about. We did it at Hawking. Sadly, it's no longer there, but I've seen fire science students who've come into the classroom and they could not get through their English classes to save their souls, but they were doing great in their technical areas. Yeah. And that's another divide, too, technical, vocational teachers versus English and, general education. We could get into that whole debate, too. It's a gulf that we need to really not have division in anymore. And the same thing is true for high school versus college. We're all in this together. So really applaud what you're saying. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, we're almost to lunch, so do we have, no? We have 10 more minutes? Oh, okay, we have 10 more minutes, so we can continue things. So,
you got, I think, a hand behind you.
There's a hand right behind you up there.
Okay, this is a question for the principal. I really like the idea of making the classes longer. I know schools used to have blocks, but they're going away from block scheduling.
Yes, ma'am.
And teachers are complaining. The science teachers don't have enough time to carry out labs in a 45-minute class. And talking about College Credit Plus, what is being done to tie this together? Given that when students go to take classes on campus, they sit in longer classrooms and then longer periods of time, but when they come to their high school level, shorter periods of time. So what is being done? How can this be tied together?
I spoke to that a little bit earlier too, and I appreciate the comments that were made. And from an experience standpoint, I really do think high school is an opportunity to, this is something that really bothers me about the whole notion of what we're talking about to an extent, because we're at to an extent a dual enrollment and College Readiness Forum. Yet what we're being challenged with as educators is college and career readiness, which are two completely different ideologies, two completely different expectations that we should be preparing our students for when you really consider that. Because you're really going to get into theory and abstract thought when you get into college, and you're going to get into practicality from a functional standpoint of the job placement career aspect of that. So it really is a dual, requirement for us. You have the student who's college or career ready. I see high school in a lot of functional understanding as the preparation for success outside of high school. As much as it's success in that English class that you're sitting in, it's for success in that college class that you're going to be sitting in 4 years, or where you're going to be elsewhere besides college in 4 years. As an academic institution, I see a high school, for the most part, as preparation for college. For the most part, it's preparation for continued academic achievement outside of high school. Do I think all kids are going to go to college after high school? No. But what I want to make sure as a building principal I do is that when that young lady or that young man leaves college or leaves high school, sick of education, tired of things, yet gets himself in a situation at 20, 22, 25, or 30, they decide, you know what, I want to set an example for my child. Or I want to go back and I want to have a career, not just a job. That they haven't limited their opportunities because of their lack of preparation in high school and their lack of experience in high school. So when you talk about the full block scheduling and you talk about the change of semesters colleges have made, I honestly do think it is inappropriate. It is inappropriate for high schools to maintain a setting of an 8-period, 9-period day schedule where we're talking about 30 to 35 to 38-minute classes. My last year teaching at Chillicothe High School, I did come up through the teaching ranks to the principalship at Chillicothe High School. I was teaching in 37-minute classes, and I remember feeling as if my hair was on fire because I'd get the students in, but by the time I got any type of semblance of understanding of what the mission was, the bell was ringing on me, and I was afraid I just wasted 37 minutes of everybody's lives. And you guys are all too talented to waste your lives and time. So I believe from a 70-minute setting, 80-minute setting, whatever it may be, we need to look at really special opportunities to design a schedule that gives a college setting. And if you have a robust curriculum like Chillicothe High School has, and the complaint was you can't go to block scheduling, CHS can't go to block scheduling, you have too robust a curriculum. If you go 4x4 block, then you'll limit the opportunities students have. Then you sit down and you make it work. We went 5x5 block. We're about the only high school in the state of Ohio that has a 5x5 block. 5x5 block is not something anybody even really knows about or understands or does. And what the 5x5 block does, it gave me the exact minimum that the state requires for a Carnegie unit. The exact minimum. We went down to the minute. But because we did it, we made the 5x5 block. Now my kids can take my core concept classes, math, science, social studies, and English, but also take my non-core classes as well, the orchestras, the choral classes. And because we're full block, they can now not just take their basic maths, but they have their trigonometry and stats as well. We notice in our ACT scores where our students are really faltering, their inability to perform well in trig. Well, we were teaching trig for 1 unit, 1 time, in pre-calculus. That was it. We needed a trig course, and as soon as we instituted trig, our ACT scores shot up. It's no real magic potion here. What is the most important element in a classroom? You. It's the teacher. So the more time I can have a student sitting in front of a teacher for a long period of time, the better that student's going to get educated, and I know it. So to give them 70 minutes instead of 37 was just the right thing to do. Now, does it shorten the year from 36 weeks to 18? Absolutely. But it makes every second valuable in that classroom. There's no longer the notion of, I've got till May, or I've got time to get this in. You know you've got a finite amount of time to make an impact with that student. And to put them in a setting where it's more college-esque, I believe that the high school setting is our responsibility. And it starts first with the structure that the high school principal and the guidance counselors can supply their teachers to educate the students. And then the curriculum follows, in my opinion. And until that happens, the teacher's going to be at a disadvantage in that classroom to truly get our students college ready.
Great. I have a question. We have maybe time for one more. Anybody else have one for Dr. Fisher, actually, regarding student services, and particularly, and maybe sharing a little bit about students that are coming to the college who have previously had IEPs and been very involved with a lot of support services at the high school, and maybe share about what's different about that at the college level. What opportunities do we have for students? Maybe you could speak to that.
Well, we do have Ohio University Athens has an office on this campus, Office of Accessibility Services, and so there is a counselor from that office here 2 days a week, and then she is on the Lancaster campus 2 days a week. And essentially a person that has an IEP, they would bring their paperwork in with them. They would work with her to see what kind of accommodations they need to be successful academically, and the kinds of things that that Athens Offices of Accessibility Services would provide would be note takers, electronic equipment to assist people that have hearing and sight issues and things like that, large print, books, articles. There's extended time for test taking and accommodations in the test taking center for people to do that. Note takers in class, I don't know if I mentioned that. So there's anything that a person needs to succeed academically here, there's going to be accommodations made to provide that kind of support for them.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Tony?
Coach, really quickly, what can college faculty do, especially those of us who teach freshmen? Are there situations that you think we need to understand more, be more sensitive to? Are there either student or institutional moments or events that we need to understand more deeply? I mean, what, in the perfect world, what would you like us to be able to perform?
That was a good question. Solid question. From a building principal standpoint, what I would like to see is that there's a little bit more focus on instructional practices from an instructor standpoint, from both the high school setting as well as the collegiate setting. I think sometimes we go in and instruct based on our passion and our abilities and our know-how, rather than what research says is the best way to instruct a student or the best way for that student to learn, regardless of their individual capabilities. We know that if we engage a student within the first few minutes of class and really engage them emotionally, that we're going to get them locked in. And sometimes we go into class and we spend the first few minutes taking attendance, and we have a lack of disorganization to our classroom, whether it be at the collegiate or the high school level. And we need to do a better job of engaging the students immediately in something that matters, something that makes them passionate and emotional. And if you do, then you've got them locked in. What research says is for another 25 to 30 minutes. So why wouldn't you take advantage of that? And too often instructional practices are the one thing in education that is ignored. We focus so much about content, and I can't stress this enough from a building principal's perspective, because I really appreciate the question, is I do not care about the content you deliver these students. I don't. I trust you professionally. You know more about English than I will ever know. The quotes you provided, the comments you made, I cannot sit here and say, and it would be a disrespect and disservice to you as a professional for me to say you need to teach this content this way, because that's disrespectful. You know it. I don't as well as you. But what I do know are instructional practices. And I think from a teacher preparation standpoint, whether that be at the high school, junior high, or elementary, or at the collegiate level, there are specific ways that we know research says reaches kids the best and engages kids the best, and we ignore them on a daily basis at every level. And until we really have an honest conversation about what best ways to do that, and I know what the argument's going to come back. The argument from the instructional practice standpoint always comes back from the teacher is if you implement something with fidelity and really focus on those, you're crushing my creativity. You're not letting me be creative in the classroom. And I say to that person, shame on you. Because what you're telling me is you're ignoring the best way to instruct students. Do the content any way you want, but know the best way to really reach kids. And if you do that regardless of age, you're going to have success. So where I want focus, this isn't just the college setting, is I want an honest conversation from a college professor all the way down to a kindergarten teacher. I want us all to be in a room, and I want us to find, based on age, what the most appropriate way to deliver instruction is. And when we get to that level, and we can really support people in that manner, then you're going to see this notion of this famous notion of horizontal and vertical curriculum. Everybody likes to say it because it sounds good, and it's cute, and it makes it sound smart and professional. And until we notice the instructional practices that really matter, then that curriculum doesn't. And that's where we need to have the conversations to be. And I need you in a room with every one of my members of the English department. And then we all need to walk down to the junior high. And then we all need to walk down to 6th grade and 5th grade and 4th grade and 3rd grade and 2nd grade and 1st grade and kindergarten and pre-K. And we all need to be in a room. And from pre-K up, what are the most appropriate ways to educate these students? And when we have that conversation, we make impactful learning.
I think that's a great way to end it. Deb, do you have some directions for...
Right. The caterers are in contact with me, and we need a few more minutes.
Oh, okay.
So I don't mean to trap you here in the auditorium, especially after Dr. Fisher's grand finale, but I would like to ask a couple questions of you folks. Earlier this morning, I asked you to write your questions that you had for this forum down on a note card, right? So I'd like for you just to visit those and see if there are some questions or are there points that you would like to address while we are all here in the same room together. And again, we have about 10 minutes, probably 15 before we're in line. So we do, again, have each other in this room together.
My name's Kelly Congrove. I teach at St. Trace High School. I graduated from Chillicothe in 2005, so that was under John Payne. And listening to all of the things that have happened in 10 years since I've been gone, because we were the part, I remember our lunch periods were 5th, 6th, and 7th period, and my lunch was always 6 periods, so that meant that I went to 5th period was one class, I went to lunch, then I went back to that class for like 25 minutes. And so like the stuff that I'm hearing is great. I wrote down a question for each one of you, and I'll only ask one. And the person that I'm going to ask is John. One of the questions that I have is the question that arose just before I got the microphone was what can college professors do, to understand high school students? And I like the idea of putting everybody in a room. What my question is for John is with the high schoolers transitioning into freshmen, that it's a new breed of a student. And in order to have the orientations, I understand that Ohio University of Chillicothe has a college night, and it's coming up this month, I believe. If you could have a high school open house, the same thing that we have for the college open house where a bunch of colleges come here, what kind of things would you include to it to let high schoolers know what kind of skills and what kind of mentality and also tangible materials that they would have to obtain before they walked in that door on their first day as freshmen?
Well, we have kind of modified we have what's called a majors fair here. It's on October 22nd this year, and it's from noon to 3 o'clock. And what we were able to do was get some funding to bus high school students in. So we're busing students in here from, I think, Jackson High School, Southeastern, Huntington, and I don't know, was Benton County one of them this year? Or,
I'm not sure.
You're not sure? I mean, it was last year. And so what we do is we are busing these students in from these schools. It's going to be about 250 students. They come in. Up in the Shoemaker Center, we have academic programs represented from both the Athens campus and our campus. Usually we get something like 40 academic programs. And we take the students, we've got them on a revolving schedule, so some of them come in and they go right into the majors fair and do research on academic programs and things like that. And then we take other groups over and work with them, give them a session on finding a major, give them a session on career research, doing career research and what you're interested in. And then we do another session on success on college here. I think what I find, or what I'm finding here, I taught this UC 1000 class, which somebody else said they had taught. And one of the things that I think is critically important here, and again, we're an open access college, and I think we're different from some of the other selective admissions colleges. But we go through orientation, we go through these advising appointments, we do all these things, and then when the term begins and you have the first day of your UC 1000 class and you're in there with a group of students and you say, okay, how many of you remember how to log into your email account? How many of you remember how to log into PeopleSoft? And I'd say easily 60% of the students don't remember how to do this at all. Everything that they're going to do as a student at Ohio University is going to involve communication, something that we've all been talking about here. Electronic communications is more important than ever. It's them interacting with their professors through Blackboard. It's them interacting with their professors and the administrative offices of the campus through their email account. It's them managing their education electronically through PeopleSoft and things of that nature. So I think, one of the things I think we need to be focused on this campus more and more is this kind of focus on our new students, is more in-depth, hands-on assistance, getting them to the point where they understand how to manage their educational career through these electronic resources that the campus uses now. That would be what I would focus on more.
I was wondering if any of the other college teachers in the room might answer your question too, like what you would, if anybody else wants to jump in on that as well, like what you would like to see. If you went to, I guess your question was, if high schools were holding an open house and said, college folks, come here and kind of tell us what to expect, what would you say? Do we have any other college teaching faculty and staff that want to jump in on that? Okay, Tanja, over here.
That they need to be aware and take advantage of all the resources that we offer.
Sometimes tutoring, for example, or SI, so important that they know that it's there and that they're not embarrassed to ask for help. It's the smart thing for them to do. And we have so many resources that they need to be aware of and reach out and take advantage of. So it's kind of upsetting sometimes when they come too late for that. And it's so hard for them to help their GPA, for us for them to bounce back from that. And it's there for them.
Yeah.
And so I would really like to see them take more advantage of that and know that it's there. And yes, ask for help if they're having trouble navigating, again, putting items in their shopping cart and coming and talking to the professors, just even sometimes getting the students to come and talk with their professors is such a big deal to some of them.
Yeah.
They don't understand that that's what we want them to do. They need to come and make an appointment and see what they missed and why, or if they don't understand something, they need to come and talk to us. And so, yeah, it's just those little things that I think would really help.
I just wanted to jump in because that reminded me of something. One of the first, I do dual enrollment, one of the first discussions we have is you are now responsible for your own education. I think what colleges maybe need to realize is that at the high school level, we are forced as teachers to always take the first step. I have a goal. I have to contact every parent every 2 weeks of students with Ds or whatever. I have to do this. I have to do that. They have never had to take responsibility for their own education and be the person that steps up and asks for help or asks the question or finds the resource. So that's a skill, and that's our fault that they can't do that or don't know. Not that they can't. They've never had to do it, and they don't know how to do it. And that's us doing them a huge disservice, absolutely.
And if I can add to an example to that, like I say, in this UC 1000 classes, the first day of class, I mean, school's already started. Everybody's got bills, so on and so forth. I want you all to log in now and look at your bill. 50% of the students in the class, first of all, can't figure out how to log into the account to look at their bill. And then when you get them logged into the account, they say, you say, look there, you owe $2,600. Did you get any financial aid? And then you go through that kind of conversation. It's like, wow, I didn't even know I had to do this. But you have explained this, okay? That's the point I'm trying to make, is we do explain all this in orientation, in detail.
You know, from a high school perspective, just to jump in, because I don't disagree with what's being said, but it's troubling. The conversation is troubling to me just a little bit. I want to preface my comments by saying I respect what everybody said, but you know, we go from a structure of high school where I guess I get what you're saying, fault, but it's the environment we live in. You as a high school teacher, you have an obligation to get them to X, Y, and Z component. And I heard about a system look earlier. I think actually it was you, still, the guidance counselor in the back. The notion of the system needs to change a little bit. But our students go from a structure, pre-K 12, where if they're not getting the services they need or not meeting the requirements they need, they have this adult or multiple adults who are holding their hand, bringing them to where they need to go, you know, things of that notion. And then it's a matter of a month, guys. I mean, really, when we're talking about college readiness, it's a matter of a month, 2 months, 3 months tops, where suddenly they don't have that structure. And yeah, they do have academic advisors here. I get that. They do have professors here. They get that, and they do have all the resources. But I think the difference is the confidence to ask. It's a confidence versus competence thing. Again, I talked about that earlier, and it's a confidence versus competence. It's not that they don't know they should ask. I'm not sure sometimes they know how to ask, and they're waiting on you as the adult because they still don't view themselves as adults. You're the adult. Come to me. Help me. Professor in English, come assist me that I do not know subject-verb agreement. Come assist me in introductory clauses rather than to ask the question. I think there's a little disconnect right there in that student services aspect. Yes, it's all here at the university level, but it's a mechanism that's here that the student has to go take advantage of rather than at the high school level where I say you're not finishing your homework, here's your after-school tutoring assignment that you're going to have to go to.
I want to jump in on that word tutoring because I think that's the bridge here. I'm listening to this conversation and I'm thinking about my tutoring center, and I'm thinking about the work that we do in the tutoring center is collaborative. And I'm thinking about the types of students that we have and the types of students that we want to send out into the community. And aren't we trying to educate leaders in our community? And in order to be a leader, I think that you have to be able to work collaboratively. You have to be able to work in your community. And I guess that might be part of the structure that we're working with. I hear people talking about a student needs to do this. I think maybe if we worked collaboratively in the classrooms, in the high school level, and continue that through the college level, and especially with tutoring. You know, you had mentioned, you know, a lot of folks don't want to go to tutoring because there's still that stigma that you're dumb, right? And that you don't know what you're doing, and so you're one of those kids that you have to go to tutoring. So I've worked really hard the past few years here on this campus to kind of change the culture of the way we think about tutoring, that it's more of a collaborative process. I put peer-to-peer tutors in the Writing Center who have been successful in these multiple classes. So they've learned how to navigate these treacherous waters of academia, and they can share that with the other students, peer students, in a way that I cannot. So it's not just on me as an instructor or as a teacher. It's not only on parents. It's not only on principals and guidance counselors and administration, but it's also needs to come from the student, that motivation, the habits of mind that we worked with at the beginning of the session today, that we need to learn how to cultivate those habits of mind in each other and empower our students to work collaboratively. So I think that might be part of it.
I think Tony wanted to say something.
I would piggyback on what Jeff said. Go back to the original question about what college professors would like to say to high school students, what we might ask them to do. I think the collaboration comment is brilliant, beautiful, and I like it. Thank you. I think one of the things that might hinder collaboration sometimes is the inability to understand that people and jobs are coming from radically different value systems and radically different practices. And I know that just for me, walking from the office to my classroom, to my office, to the student center, I have to sort of rethink where I am, what I'm supposed to be doing, how I need to understand these people like different than I do. So I would really ask students to just be aware that see student services, administration, service folks. They all come from different value systems and different set of practices that might be pretty shocking if you think that you live in a world where everyone's working together in the same exact ways for the same goals. And they have respect for those strange things they might not make sense to them really, or not get frustrated when, gosh, my guidance counselor said this, my administrator said this, my guidance counselor said this, my teacher said this teacher said this, and it's so frustrating because I'm looking for some answers, guys, and I'm trying to pay attention, and I'm trying to do the right thing, but you're all telling me different damn things to do. Sort of just recognize that that's one of those really important skills that I consider to say, yeah, we all live in multiple worlds. Let's look for bridges and gaps between those worlds and be able to sort of transfer our identities from one set to another. I think that not just for students, but for all of us as well, is so important. I think once my freshmen will start getting that, like, oh my gosh, there might be an actual fight between these two English teachers or these two different ways of thinking and believing and behaving. And that really benefits the student. Like, I can learn between the sort of gaps between these two sets of values. So there's one thing I think would be that. I think that really helps collaboration when you realize, oh my gosh, you might really think fundamentally differently about these players, these sort of project education, and that's cool, that's okay, I can learn.
And I would like to add, I don't know that I even answered your question, sorry about that, but that I think a lot of it's kind of basic too. I mean, college is different from high school. Whenever I teach a class, I always tell my students, here's how you succeed. A, you attend class. B, you pay attention and work in class. C, you read all the materials. And D, you take all the tests and turn in all your assignments on time. And if people will do that, they'll succeed in higher education here, I believe. They have to have the things you talked about, confidence to ask questions. They need that, but they need to be dependable. They need to be persistent. They need to be questioning, like Tony's talked about. And this is how they succeed. I mean, there's all this other stuff. You got to get on PeopleSoft. You got to check your email. You got to do this. You got to do that. But there's some old-fashioned values and characteristics that they need to have too.
I think one of the things that kind of helps this is some myths, maybe. So maybe your high school, college night, a myth is, yeah, you actually do have to go to class. I don't know how many times I've had students, well, I thought when you went to college you didn't have to go to class. It was optional. It was kind of like you could just show up whenever. Well, technically, yes. No one's going to call your mom if you don't come. But at the same time, yeah, you really need to show up. It's really important. And just some of those kinds of things. I've gone into Kim and Tammy's classroom and had those kind of conversations with her students, and it's really fun, actually, to see their eyes kind of go, what? No?
It's amazing the myths.
Right. So having, I think, that conversation going into the high school classrooms, bringing your college students back to the high school classroom and saying, hey, guys, here's what I learned. In those kinds of settings, sometimes that would be a great thing for high schools to do, is to bring students back to their schools, successful college students, college professors to come and talk about those things, to those seniors, juniors in high school. So maybe they start kind of getting some of that self-advocacy and thinking about those things maybe early on. That might be a really good idea. So,
Syllabus.
yeah, look at a syllabus.
I mean, honestly, it's a simple, quick little activity. Have them look at the syllabus. They are shocked at how much they're supposed to read, that attendance counts, that it's part of their grade.
Right. Or have the high schools write syllabi that mimic college syllabi. That's what every course at CHS has a syllabi that is college-esque, so that our students can prepare to begin to function within that structure.
Very important. I mean, quick little thing that really opens eyes.
Agreed.
Are we, Deb, ready to be released for lunch?
Go back over to where we started this morning. Thank you.
Thank you.